Welcome to the Town Hall of ICSE, organizing with IEEE, TCSE, and ACM Zigsoft. My name is Lauren Tafelder, and I had a privilege, was the chair of the TCSE since 2020, while I had my hat as a faculty member at the University of Waterloo. I started this position when it was pandemic, and this is the first town hall that we are in person together. And it's so good to have all the colleagues and friends around. Let me start with first helping me and joining me to welcome IEEE Computer Society team that they decided to join ICSE this year. Nita Patil, IEEE Computer Society President, Melissa Russell, Executive Director, Brooks Little, Associate Program Director, and Kathy Park, who is our really angel, helping us in organizing all the TCSE sponsor conferences. They are here. Join me to welcome all four of them here, and then they will answer any question that you have during the conference or even in the, during this town hall. Thank you for joining us. Let me start to tell what is TCSE for those of you who are new and it's your first time. IEEE Technical Community on Software Engineering is the voice of software engineering within the IEEE and the Computer Society. And TCSE has been working with professional societies, governments, academia, or nonprofit organizations and industries to create resources and opportunities that will educate and inspire the next generation of software engineers. We currently have 1,930 members, and I would like to encourage all of you who are not a member of IEEE Computer Society, become a member, and then you will get your TCSE membership free. As a TCSE chair, I'm just in front of the SEN. I have a large group of people that I have a privilege working with them. This is all the people that you will see, and I'm sure that you're familiar with many of them in our community because they are long-standing both on research and services to our SE community. What is the TSC benefit? It's providing financial and technical support for all the conferences in SE domain. It's a sponsoring for publication that both advances research and aid practitioners, and providing lots of opportunities through webinars. And we are also sponsoring strategic projects as well. The question is how you can participate in TCSE. First of all, as I said, try to become a member. We have several awards under the IEEE, and you can nominate good colleagues who deserve to be highlighted from a different point of view of their career. You can do a lot of volunteer job, and I would be delighted if any of you reach out to me, and we have so many tasks that we can go together and we can accomplish things when we are as a group. And I'm delighted to hear any initiatives that you would like to do, especially addressing diversity and inclusion, and even sharing some conference experience. I'm here today to give you a short and brief updates of TCSE activities. The first thing that I would like to say that we are I have a great news to share, and two of our members in the software engineering community recently elected in the 2023 IEEE Computer Society. Grace Lewis was elected to be the second vice president of IEEE Computer Society. I don't know, Grace is around here, I can't see, okay. And Rick Kaisman, who was the former TCSE chair, became a member of the Board of Governors starting this year for the next 2 years. Where's Rick? You can see. Okay, I want to share with you two of the initiatives that I started since yesterday, because now we are relatively out of the, out of the wood for COVID. As you know, TCSE sponsor over 90 noteworthy conferences. And the cost of the proceedings of ICSE, it's almost around $15,000, and doesn't matter which year and which society is sponsoring it as a lead, because you know that it's 50-50 between ACM, ZIGSOF, and IEEE TCSE. Always these costs will be covered by IEEE Computer Society and TCSE if the general chair and the program chair decide to use the Computer Society conference publishing services. And you can learn about this through the link that I provided in my slides. But what I've done in last year is I tried to take a look at other conferences that we have in our community, and I found that let's provide the financial support in addition to ICSE. And then we set up some selection criteria. And the most important thing was each of these conferences providing some surplus. And we need to return back to that surplus to the community that they deserve to get it. Therefore, we set the criteria for the last 2 years, take a look at their performance, and then take a look at what percentage IEEE Computer Society TCSE is sponsoring it, and what is the cost of their proceeding. And then I'm very happy to report that we covered partially their cost for 8 other conferences in addition to ICSE. ACSTOS, ICSA, ICSME, ICST, ISRE, SANER, QCE, and RE got partial support for their proceeding, and I faced with lots of good happiness from the general chair when I sent these emails to them that we are covering some expenses. That was one of the summary that I would like to share with you. The second one was earlier last year, Laura Dillon contacted me and says that they are initiating a D&I activity, which is a Michigan State University with Pathlight coding clubs. They come up with these initiatives to bring an outreach program that allows MSU undergraduate students act as a mentor and then try to teach computer coding remotely to some of the disadvantaged youth living in Belize. And I found this is a very interesting project. I'm again happy to report that TCSE sponsored 20% of their expenses, and I'm looking to work more closely with this group. A press release on this project has been already published in IEEE Computer Society website, and I would like to encourage everybody to take a look at it. That was something very interesting. Then it comes to my mind that what should we do, that we are talking about the D&I, can we do more? And then I'll take a look at it, and I found that the Computer Society had a very nice setup on D&I best practices for conferences. I would like to encourage all our colleagues and my colleagues that they are arranging conferences in the years to come, take a look at these resources, because we can use many of those practices in our software engineering community. And then considering this into account, we set up 2 initiatives. The first one is how we can more proactively support D&I activities at conferences. What we have done is the vice co-chair of the conferences of TCSE, that there are 3 people working together. They contacted the TCSE sponsored conferences, and they try to share with them these best practices. We already created an application process and selection criteria. The favor conferences will be the one that is related to SE, and we would like to provide a positive balance in such a way that they will get the funding that they already created as a surplus. You will stay tuned, because the whole program will be launched in July 2023. The second one is another initiative that we would like to make sure provided the travel support for attending conferences, but try to take into account the D&I values. Again, we created some application and selection criteria. We would like to make sure that we address the region 8, only Africa, region 9 and 10. We would like to address the minorities in the community, and as well as we would like to take a look at those applicants that they cannot travel if those funding won't be available. For example, required childcare or required companion because of some special disabilities. Again, that program will be launched in July 2023. All the conference organizer, please stay in touch with me. We have so many things that we would like to help the community to grow even better and address the D&I in the best possible way. Thank you, and I ask right now Tom, as an ACM ZIGSOF chair, to come and do the rest. Thank you.
Well, okay. So I'm Tom Zimmerman. I'm the chair of ACM SIGSOFT, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of SIGSOFT and also share a few recent updates. So what is SIGSOFT? So SIGSOFT is very much similar to what TCSE is for IEEE. It's a similar thing basically for ACM. So ACM SIGSOFT is a special interest group on software engineering, and it is a volunteer-driven organization that seeks to improve our ability to engineer software by stimulating interaction among practitioners, researchers, and educators, and by fostering the professional development of software engineers, and also by representing software engineers to professional, legal, and political entities, and also within the ACM. And so what I want to do today is actually I want to walk through some of the great things that our volunteers are doing. And so some of the volunteers you can see on this slide. And also many volunteers who are not shown on this slide, we're actually organizing a lot of the SIGSOFT conferences. Like ICSE is one of them, but there are many other conferences. And this slide shows basically all of the conferences that SIGSOFT is co-sponsoring or sponsoring this year. SIGSOFT is also, it has its volunteers, and there's also like an elected board of volunteers, which is the SIGSOFT Executive Committee. And so I'm the SIGSOFT chair. And then we have Marsha Chadwick, and I don't know if she's here, but she is over here, I think. So if you're in the room, so just wave somehow. We have Lynn Tan, who serves as the secretary and treasurer of ACM SIGSOFT, and we have Christian Kadar, David Lowe, and Martin Robiliard, and Nino Medivovic, he's the past chair of ACM SIGSOFT. And so some of the things that SIGSOFT volunteers are doing is, for example, there's a quarterly newsletter on software engineering research activities, which is edited by Jacopo Soldani. So this is for SIGSOFT members. They get notification by email, but you can also look it up in the ACM Digital Library. We have a SIGSOFT blog, which is edited by Christian Kadar, and it's basically a forum for the entire SIGSOFT community to share and discuss issues relevant to software engineering. SIGSOFT also sponsors the SE World mailing list, which I think many of you are actively using. And this is basically a mailing list where software engineering conferences and also job positions for academic job positions can be posted. And this mailing list is coordinated by Jingyu Yang and Elena Sherman. Then we have the SIGSOFT CAPS program, which is basically the SIGSOFT program to provide financial assistance to help people attend conferences and workshops that are co-sponsored by SIGSOFT. And it also provides support for childcare. And so, for example, for ICSE, we provided 57 travel grants in the total amount of $42,000 US. And we provided an additional $30,000 for the student mentoring workshop and also some support for childcare at ICSE. And the CAPS program, it's coordinated by Nan New. So he's running it actually for every SIGSOFT sponsored conference. There is SIGSOFT funding for travel available. We have a webinar program, which is a platform for software engineering professionals and researchers to share knowledge and discuss emerging trends and also explore innovative practices. And that's basically on top of our conference program. It's like a virtual webinar program. And this is coordinated by Venera Anadova and Shane McIntosh. We have a SIGSOFT Awards program, which is coordinated by David Lowe. And this year, the award chairs were Natalia Uristo, Dongmei Zhang, and Andreas Sisman. And for the SIGSOFT Award program, I'm not going to talk much today, but I encourage you to come back here tomorrow morning for the keynote and stay after the keynote, because the SIGSOFT and the TCSE award ceremony are actually going to be tomorrow morning. And tomorrow in the late afternoon, we are going to have the SIGSOFT Outstanding Research Award talk by Gail Murphy. And in case you're wondering who are the individuals who are going to be recognized tomorrow morning, so here's a slide showing all the amazing members of the software engineering community. I now will hand over to Kelly Blinko, who will talk a little bit about the SIGSOFT Cares Committee, which she will explain more about.
Thank you. Okay, so I just wanted to briefly mention the SIGSOFT Cares initiative. So this is CARES. I have to put the spelling here because I won't remember what the acronym stands for. It's Committee to Aid Reporting on Discrimination, Harassment, and Related Ethical Violations. So this morning, you heard in the opening John Grundy talk about the policy against harassment at ACM activities. So CARES is here to basically do a couple of things. So to encourage a welcoming environment that does not include harassment and discrimination, and also to be here to provide confidential conversations and support to people who feel that they have been subject to harassment or discrimination. This is the second conference that we're supporting. So we were also at ICSE in 2022 in Singapore, and now we're here. And so we will be supporting ASE, ICSE, and ICSE for the time being, and we plan to extend that support in the future. And CARES is based on similar initiatives in other ACM SIGs. I've already talked about that. So another thing is CARES, what CARES doesn't do is it doesn't share information without your permission, and it does not act as an intermediary. So we can't actually report things on your behalf, but we can help guide you through the process of reporting issues. And actually, all of the SIGSOFT Cares members are here at ICSE this year. So all of our names are up here. And if you wanted to find any of us to have a talk about what CARES does, you can find us wearing buttons that say SIGSOFT Cares members. And we also have a booth, which people will be at for the first hour after lunch each day of the main conference. And the little black circle there shows where that booth is. So it's just across from 106. And there's also a QR code here if you want to scan to get to the website to learn anything else about CARES. Thank you.
So I have now a few very quick updates about SIGSOFT, because we also want to make time for the ICSE updates. So we started several new SIGSOFT member benefits over the past year. So one of them is like a free email forwarding address at sigsoft.org, so that's similar to your acm.org forwarding address. We also have a SIGSOFT Mastodon server, so if you don't want to be on Twitter anymore, but still like to do things like tweeting, you can sign up for the SIGSOFT Mastodon server. And then I'm happy to announce that we are going to have a call for proposals for software engineering schools, which is going to launch sometime next week. And basically have funding available of up to $10,000 for each school, like for selected schools. And so it's per school, not in total. But basically, and the schools can be any time of the year. They can be in summer, winter, fall, spring. We will send out information about the call for proposals in SE World, SIGSOFT social media, and to the SIGSOFT member list. And the application deadline is basically June 30. So if you are interested in organizing a summer school for which you would need financial support, or you already have like a summer school or a software engineering school which could use some additional support, then this is a chance for you to apply for financial support. I do want to give a few updates on open access in ACM. So ACM is moving to a publish and read model for open access, which is called ACM Open. And so the anticipated switch to this model is going to be in 2026. So one thing, if you're passionate about open access, what you can do right now is basically to talk to your universities about ACM Open and also encourage them to sign up for ACM Open, because this allows you to already publish your papers now as open access if you signed up already. The other thing I want to share is the FSE conference and SIGSOFT submitted a proposal for a proceedings of the ACM journal to ACM. And the idea is that this journal is going to be focused on software engineering, and it's going to replace the FSE proceedings. And this proceedings of ACM is also going to be gold open access from the beginning. So we expect that it's going to be starting in 2024, and the open access funding is going to be provided by SIGSOFT. So basically, that's an opportunity for anyone in the software engineering community to publish for free open access papers if they don't a member of ACM Open. And more details about this are going to be released in early fall. The one thing I want to mention about FSE is switching to a July date starting next year, which also means that the submission deadline is going to be sometime, I think, in late September. And finally, I want to share that the ACM president, Yanis Iododanis, he created 10 task forces, which you can see on the slide, and he is looking for volunteers to sign up. And if you're passionate about any of these topics that are listed on the slide, please consider applying, because it's really important that we have many software engineering people present in these task forces, because the outcome eventually will also affect what happens in the software engineering community. And so application deadline is next week on May 22nd. And with this, I want to hand over to Laurie, who is going to present the next deck on the updates from the ICSE steering committee. And I don't know how this is going to change.
Magic. The deck, okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm Lori Williams, and I am going to be talking about, I have the honor right now of being both the ICSE Steering Committee Chair, and also we created over the last few years another committee, which is the SE3 Committee, which is like a meta committee, a meta steering committee for ICSE, FSE, and ASE. And making joint decisions for all three conferences, and I was the chair of that as well. So first I'll start with updates from the SE3 committee, and some of this is a review, but I just wanted to make sure, now that we're all in person, to talk about that. And so this was an initiative back in 2020 when we started the committee to do a number of things, which was to decrease the carbon footprint, to geographically distribute the conferences throughout the world, and to create a regular conference schedule. So in 2020, when we started this, there could be years where, for example, someone might remember FSE and ICSE being in Italy in the same year. Things like that were happening. And also sometimes, you know, at the time, ASE and FSE would reverse, like who would be first, who would be second. So we came up with a scheme to spread them out so that in any given year, there was one conference in North America, one conference in Europe, and one conference elsewhere in the world, and spread them out in time. So now ICSE next year will start being in April, and FSE in July, and ASE like in the October timeframe. And so you can see, you know, it started this year with the spreading out geographically. Next year we'll have the time set as well. So that was one thing that was done. And this is just throwing it out. So other conferences, so now that we've made this coordinated effort between these three conferences, another thing to keep in mind is the carbon footprint. And now that we're back after COVID, we also still don't want to be traveling all over the world all the time the way we did before because of carbon footprint. So if you're an organizer of another conference, one of the things the SC3 committee has talked about is how do we consolidate the conferences, so really we would travel 3 times as opposed to 12 times like we did before. So if you're an organizer of another conference, think about whether you could co-locate with one of the SE3 conferences and speak with us about that. and also like do it early for the conference organizers. This is a slide I took from a number of years ago during a town hall. We also had a community goal for providing the ability for authors to have a major or minor revision and to improve the quality of papers. This pie chart is based upon a survey we did in 2020 of the community to find out how did the community feel about dual deadlines. And you can see from the graph that 60% of people liked the dual deadlines idea. Another 20% didn't care and it was neutral, and only 20% didn't like it, and so we went for it, and this is the year that it all started. I know with the ICSE steering committee, once we make a major change like that, we commit to trying it for 3 years, working out the kinks. And so, we'll be seeing how that goes, and this is the first year. So that was the SE3 committee and the things that we had done. Also, I'm the chair of the ICSE steering committee for another couple of days. And that's a committee that consists of program chairs, general chairs, IEEE and ACM presidents or representatives. So one of the things that we focused on is, and what I'm going to do here, if you see the pink, that's saying like this is a discussion point. When we get into the Q&A, we would love to hear your thoughts. So sustainability and inclusiveness, again, want to reduce the carbon footprint. Is one goal. The other is, as we went into hybrid conferences, people who are in parts of the world that couldn't make it to ICSE had access to ICSE Talks. How do we continue to support people who can't actually make it? And so something that we agreed to was we would have a sustainability chair in the ICSE organizing committee, and we will include a carbon offset tax in the registration fee. It'll just be part of that, and we'll donate that to an organization who can help with the carbon footprint of all of us traveling. So a big issue, big item of discussion is what do we do about hybrid conferences? And there's lots of pros and cons, and we want to hear what the community has to say about that. Some of the pros and cons is, one, it's a ton of work to do an in-person conference and a hybrid conference at the same time. So, and this is a volunteer organization, so that's a lot of work. It is expensive also to add this type of virtual component to a conference. But, on the other side is if we have a lot of virtual offerings, so if you have the ability to present virtually or come in person, what happens if funding agencies start to say, well, you should just present virtually, and it takes away people's ability to actually travel? That's a concern. It's also not wonderful to go to a conference where you travel all the way to Australia and you're looking at presenters who are just virtual, and and you're watching them on a screen. So there's a lot of pros and cons. We would love to hear your thoughts about what do we do about hybrid conferences going forward. Something that we did take some actions on, and we're looking to do some more on, is being more open and responsive to industry. Something that we did in the last 4 years was bring in make sure that every software engineering and practice track had at least one industry chair, which was not always the practice in the past, so that's for sure. And any industry software engineering practice chairs are now on the steering committee to try to get us to hear the voice of what can we do to be more responsive to industry. But we would like to take more, and these are currently the people who are on the steering committee looking for more 2025, 2026 and onward. We're looking for more ways to be more responsive to industry, like offering more tutorials or having them offer tutorials for us. So if you have ideas there, we would love to hear them. And some other things we have started the process of putting the steering committee minutes on the main ICSE website. So you can see that. Will Trace has been our note taker often, and want to thank him. I know he's not there. There's also going to be a feedback form available on the ICSE main website, and Tom worked that out. And so if you have some feedback, as the steering committee chair, I did get lots of emails, but if you just want to fill out a form, that might be an easier way, that will be on the ICSE website as well. And then again, in the pink, things that we're still talking about is that ICSE is quite large. Now there's 10 or 11 parallel tracks at any time. How do we feel about that? There's continued growth and submissions at all the conferences, and what do we do about that? Is ICSE going to get bigger and bigger? Should we make ICSE 4 days? Should posters? Should some papers be posters instead? Any other ideas? Like, what do we do about the growth that we're actually seeing? Is something that we're discussing without a resolution. So we would love to hear your thoughts. And then finally, I'd like to introduce the new ICSE Steering Committee Chair, Ari. Yay! So we welcome, and I'm happy to pass the baton to Ari. It's been a wonderful 4 years. It's been an honor to be your chair, but I know Ari will do a great job as well.
And the person really deserving the applause is Laurie, of course. So Laurie, thank you very, very much.
You're most welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, we really need to have a big appreciation to Lori. She served on 2 different committees, ICSE Steering Committee and SE3, and we cannot thank you enough for all you have done for our community. This is small token of appreciation to tell you that you did a great job. I'm sure by looking at this, you'll always remember all those days on Zooms that we had together.
Yes.
Something?
All right. Thank you. Thank you. It really has been my honor to serve, and I'll remember this throughout my career.
And it was an honor for us to work with.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Is there any people that
So.
take pictures?
Okay, I wasn't expecting this. I just mentioned that I had something to say at the town hall, and I was assuming that we would have an open mic, and that I was going to say something. But now I'm up here, which is a bit uncomfortable. Okay, so let me start by saying that ICSE. I love ICSE. I've been publishing regularly at ICSE. I was program chair. I was general chair. But now I'm going to do a critique of ICSE. So that's one of the things I want to say before I start. So I think the software engineering community is broader than ICSE. There are many actors in the software engineering community. There's ICSE, there's FSE, ASE, there's the journals. Full disclosure, I'm the TSE editor-in-chief. So I have that perspective now. But then there are all the specialist conferences too. And all those actors play an important role, I think, in the software engineering community. And I'm worried that it's ICSE that's taking a role that perhaps isn't ICSE's role, which is to coordinate all these actors and to have a broad and rich software engineering community. So, some of the things you can see in the language, like at some point in the presentation about ICSE, there was a mention of our conferences. And, the specialized conferences aren't ICSE's conferences, of course. They have their own views and their own ways of doing things. And we were discussing with Joe and others at the showcase one of the problems that some of the communities in software engineering aren't being well represented at ICSE. And I think we need a different kind of organization. SE3 is an interesting and a good step forward in that ICSE, I think, took the lead in bringing together 2 other conferences and trying to coordinate them a little. But I think we need a venue in which the journals and the specialized conferences and ICSE that has a major role, because it is the biggest conference, and maybe it's the one that has the strongest, I don't know what word to use here. It's very prestigious, but I think it's got a very, what's the word in Spanish? Doesn't matter. Anyway, so I think we need to have a committee that involves all the two societies, which I think should be playing a bigger role in coordinating the community. It's not only about just getting the dates right and the locations right. I think that's actually superficial in terms of coordinating the community. So we need this committee that thinks these problems that we have, and which are serious, like, traveling. We're going to be traveling probably less, as Laurie was saying, but we want participation in all these conferences, the big ones and the smaller ones. And there are communities that can't travel because they don't have enough funding. There are communities that people don't want to travel because of the carbon footprint. There are many reasons for wanting to travel or not wanting to travel. And all these, these are complex problems. I don't want to extend because I don't even have them all sorted out in my head. But we need to start thinking and coordinating decisions rather than having one conference say, I'm going to do this. And then all the other conferences kind of figuring out how they're going to adapt to this decision. Like, ICSE has 2 deadlines. And so FSC says, well, because they've got 2 deadlines, maybe we have to do this. And then Model says, oh my God, what are we going to do with this? Because how we're going to adapt to these changes. And it feels like, we're making a lot of local decisions, and we're going to reach a local optimum rather than a global optimum. And I think we're missing a chance. So I think we should move to a much more coordinated view of the area. That's what I wanted to say.
So thanks, Sebastian, for the sharing your thoughts, and I think that's really good feedback, and I think we will certainly take it into account. But also I think we want to open up now the floor for everyone to basically just share any comments, any concerns, any thoughts, any ideas. If you have like a crazy idea of what we can do better for the software engineering community, now is a great chance to share. And you don't have to come up here with like microphones down here, but you can also come up if you want. Okay.
Thank you. Just a thought that we are considering since a long time. So I'm sustainability co-chair, as you know, this year. And I am in line with what Sebastian was saying. My thoughts on top of that is that only recently I realized that we are an elite. So we have enough money, or we find enough money to come here or to attend conferences. So, and I think it's fantastic that the IEEE, ACM, etc., or TCSC, they provide some funding. There are other organizations that they do, but they are not enough. And there is a big chunk of researchers that cannot afford to travel. So I was thinking, in line with, again, what Sebastian was saying, that we should think of different disruptive models of conferences for small conferences, but especially for large conferences like ICSE, in which it's possible to actively engage, not only remotely participate, actively engage researchers from all over the world that also are less lucky than we are. So there are some models out there also in other disciplines. I think we should take the opportunity with climate change, etc., to be more inclusive, also not only providing some funding, but also exploring other types of conference models, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that was, I guess I didn't make that. I mean, like, I was trying to say on that slide that, like, it's pink because we completely agree with you. That we need to figure out the pros and cons of either side with being inclusive, but also not taking away the ability to get funding, like, and to not get to the point where people are saying, well, why should I even go? I just can present remotely, so like, what's the right balance, what's the right model? And there's a lot of communities, everyone knows of different communities, give us some concrete, like, this is a place, a field that does something, maybe we should try that.
Hello, thank you very much. I've been chairing this morning a session and attending many other sessions, and I understand that scalability is really a big issue here. We started a number of years ago with a presentation of 30 minutes. I'm not saying that I like them, okay? I'm not saying this at all, okay? But today, as a session chair and looking at the authors, having this 5 minutes and then 10 minutes, and if things grow and if we want to incorporate other communities, as you said, or we are going to have 15 sessions in parallel, and we know how much we missed because there were many things in parallel interesting today, or we are going to give presentation of 2 minutes. So I believe, and I second Patricia, even if I don't have a solution, that we need to think about a different solution. It was too, in a hurry, everything too in a hurry. We couldn't get time, to make questions. We couldn't get time really to do anything, and then you jump to another session. So I don't believe this is what we want. We want to grow, but I think that we want to push more on the social aspects, interaction, on those aspects. So that's my input from my daily experience. Thank you.
Maybe some responses. One is, last year during the town hall, it was mostly senior people who came up, is something that somebody to me said. So I would like to invite everybody, just feel free to come forward and raise any concern you have here in the mic now. And second, yes, indeed, we need to think about alternative models. That could also, and hybrid is not the only model. It could also be that you will organize a separate online event. Maybe it's not an event of a single week, but it could be a continuous stream of online presence. And I think the software engineering community is not so present online at the moment. There is, for instance, this Never Works in Theory series organized by Greg Wilson. It's a very nice initiative. But it's not coming from ourselves. I'm not saying that we should replicate it, but maybe we can take some inspiration from that, where various research papers are actually presented online. So keep the good thoughts coming, and please come forward with your ideas. That killed the whole discussion. So.
Tell you what I do with my classes is I say, okay, talk to the person next to you and come up with a question. And then we can cold call people with their questions. Should we do that? Think, pair, share.
I will miss Laurie so much.
Hi, this is my first year at ICSE. I'm very happy to be here. One of the organizations that I'm a part of does mid-year conferences, which are all online, and they're meant for like the global community, in quotes. And one of the issues that I think with that model is that there's this competition, not competition, but like that is a lesser valued conference than the main annual meeting. And so I'm wondering, I definitely like the idea of disruptive conferences, as Patricia said, and how we can do this, but how do we then also not devalue that experience when it's in a different time frame as ICSE, or how do we keep the value the same? Well,
and related to that, we should make sure that the reviewing processes are always the same, and also that the prestige is connected to the rigor of the reviewing process, and that it's not just, oh, it is ICSE, so it is very special. If there's good reviewing, then it's a good paper. That should be the philosophy, I think.
Okay, so talk to the person next to you and come up with a question.
Hi, I'm Michael Liu and Laurie. We know each other for a long time. So I'm not a junior. I'm very senior. I'm about to retire. I just got extended for a few more years, but I seldom speak any opinion about ICSE. So I guess I got the right to say something. Particularly, I appreciated Laurie for helping us in the past 4 years in a difficult time because of the pandemic. But when I was a young researcher, I really think that going to a conference to meet people, to meet those senior people, is a very important function to sort of understand how people think, how people behave, even their face expressions. And that always gives me some kind of a learning experience. Even though I was a poor assistant professor, but I tried very hard to attend conferences, and ICSE is one of those. And ICSE was a big conference in the old days, and I thought that maybe I was doing software reliability, as you know, that we started a conference called Software Reliability Engineering. We want to get out of the ICSE big group and then start our own conferences. But I thought that still ICSE is a very, very important venue for software engineering researchers to continue this way of passing this effort and also the role model generation after generation. And I do see that the ASC, ICSE, and FSC combined together to do things more consistently is indeed a very, very good way. But I also originally thought that 30 minutes presentation, what happened to that? How come it's abbreviated to be 15 minutes? But then I thought that when I attended the session, I was there, I thought when the speaker was given 15 minutes, they still can make it very, very clear. And you don't feel like you're wasting time to listen to a talk. So there's still quite a few things that I think steering committee has done it right. And that's my impression. So I know that we need to improve further, and we also need to consider young people don't have that much travel funding, but if there's a way we continue to keep the good things running, ICSE should be there for people to meet, for people to grow, and for people to really have good memory when they retire. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. And I will say, I had a student who just defended his PhD last week, and I could tell that, like, you know, it was harder for him, you know, because he hadn't been out and about meeting people, presenting throughout the years. So I do think in all we're trying to do, preserving actually all of us meeting and all of us that have been around a while, mentoring the younger people is a very, very important thing. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you so much for waiting. So, Joshua Garcia, University of California, Irvine. Not a senior person, hope to be one day. So, I'm going to say something hopefully not so controversial, and not so risky probably, because again, junior person. So, I work with a good number of people in computing conferences that probably get like maybe even a lot more funding than we do, and the conferences may even be significantly bigger, probably in part because of that. And I hear like they're impressed that we have all these, so many tracks and like so many different kinds of papers from different tracks in a single session, and that we do things like try to not just have all the conferences in the US or North America. And so I think I wanted to thank everyone for even like thinking about all these things, because it doesn't necessarily sound like even like more, I guess, well-off areas of computing think quite that way, or even use words like diversity, inclusion, all that much. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
I'm Caroline from Delft, and you wanted ideas. So the ICSE technical track is very proud of rejecting 80% of the papers. And then also I have a lot of colleagues who say, well, this happens because it's so generic, it's so general over all the topics, so having really someone who understands your work is very difficult. And at the same time, submitting at smaller conferences is also much more rewarding because you actually meet the people that work very close to your work. So, and then when I look here at what happens at ICSE, what people really value here is sitting outside and chatting with other people and having like one central point where you can meet all your friends and all from the rest of the community. If you want to schedule a meeting with someone, let's do it at ICSE. So my proposal, and then, additional point, in the technical track, basically no questions. Very many talks, we have no question from the community, and then maybe the session chair has to ask one. My proposal is let's scrap the technical track papers and let's just co-locate all the conferences, the topical conferences next to each other at the same time so that we can all come together, travel for the same things. Maybe we can make new, smaller conferences for the different topics that we had. We have these streams this time. And then we can still do town hall meetings together, big steering committee meetings together. We can have great keynotes for everyone. But the really topical discussions are happening in groups that are actually identifying with each other and working on the same topics together. So they can really have much more fruitful discussions.
Yeah, thank you for the suggestion. I'll just say the technical track is not proud of rejecting 80%. That's the only thing I would like to clarify because I know there's a lot of new people here.
Hi, thanks for the discussion. I think I learned a lot from you guys. So this is my second ICSE. Last year I attended ICSE in Pittsburgh and I really enjoyed the poster session. Because like somebody mentioned that it's too fast, everybody is in so hurry and nobody has time to question or interact with the authors. But last year it was really good to have that poster session. I also have a paper presentation tomorrow and I prepared a poster. But then we came to know that the posters will not be presented, but they will be available in the digital screen for somebody to come and see all by themselves. So I was really frustrated knowing that because the PC chairs, they invited us to do posters, which we did, we submitted, but now we're not presenting. And I was actually also looking forward to talk to some of the authors from different papers that I identified, but because of all these parallel sessions, I was not able to catch up with them, and now I don't find them and no opportunity to know about their work. So maybe in the upcoming ICSEs, maybe focusing more on the poster presentation would be really helpful and more interactive than these 10-minute talks. Thanks.
About the posters. Last year I attended the poster session too, and immediately after that session I tweeted how much I loved this poster session, so I completely share the feeling.
I'm from Atlassian, so industry. One thing that I really liked about the virtual conferences was that part of that included videos that people uploaded and were available on YouTube, which made it a lot easier for me to share this work with people like in my company that don't attend ICSE. And now that we're back to in-person conferences, there are no longer videos, although the option exists. So my request also to the people who are in ICSE, this is an opportunity just to make this material more accessible and to share it also beyond this community with others. And I think that ICSE organizers can also help encourage this kind of sharing. Thank you. Oh, and it also helps with the fear of missing out. When there are a lot of sessions in parallel, it's great to have this opportunity to catch up with other talks in videos. Thanks.
Yep. Thank you for that feedback.
So I just realized, my name is Miriam Kim, I'm from UCLA. So I just realized that my first ICSE was 20 years ago, and I remember that it was actually a much smaller number of a track and smaller. And I think for the past 20 years, we have grown to have many different tracks. And I think this has been very inclusive. But at the same time, I've been kind of realizing that it's very hard to keep track of even like going through the programs thinking about what's happening and where. And I think also given the size of growth, we've been going into more direction of a larger convention centers where rooms are sometimes spread out, very hard to find people. So just going with that, like kind of right now also idea of making ICSE 4 days instead of 3 days, it already has a pre-session, several days, and post-session. So I'm just wondering whether there are any discussions at the steering committee level on how to foster sort of small group or like more fruitful discussion experience. Because I think we are, in some sense, am I the only one feeling like there are a lot of tracks going on and it's getting larger and larger, very hard to find people too. Anyway, I'm not complaining, but I wanted to hear some thoughts from whether there are any discussions or are we on the path of growing and adding more tracks. Yeah.
So I'm not sure on which path we are, but one of the first things I will do as new chair is listen to what sort of points need to be discussed urgently, and this is now one of them.
Hi, I'm a junior, first ICSE, and I hope you can keep track of all these points because there's a lot.
It's being recorded.
Oh, beautiful. So I want to present my work to people who are working in the same sort of corner. So how about we have corners where people can stand for like half a day or like 2 hours, present their work for people who are there. Oh, this is topic A and I want to listen to that. And there's maybe a couple of people already there and they're listening, they're discussing, and I stand there and listen, and then I go to the next person or to the next person in the same sort of performance corner or debugging corner or logging corner. And then we can have different days for different topics. And if my topic is, for example, performance and cryptography, then I have a performance corner where I can present my stuff, and at the cryptography or the optimizing and whatever. So maybe that's a sort of solution to all these things, because then we can have longer, but a lot, and fruitful discussions and presentations. So maybe sort of the poster session, sort of everything combined. Maybe that would work.
Yeah, and I have been in the past more in the Agile software development community. Anyone who's been to those conferences know they have a model called open space, which they didn't invent, it's a thing. And it's much along those lines. So kind of a space, and then you would declare, I want to talk about debugging from 1 to 2, and you post it somewhere, and then if people want to come and talk about debugging at that time, then they can come. So maybe something like that.
Michael Schlichtig from Paderborn University, also a junior researcher. I was thinking about an idea towards presentations. Like, to me, past years, you had your first presentations in online conferences, then you could finally get back to in-person conferences, and it's much more engaging with the audience. You get into discussions right afterwards. I had a conference last year, had to sit through my own recording, and then got one question, and that's basically it. That's so sad. And I would like to maybe see, can we do something to prioritize presentations? Not only the papers, like there's best papers awards or distinguished paper awards, but if you have a really good presentation, some presentation you see, it's not even your topic, but you are in the presentation, you're like, wow, that's amazing. I learned something just from the presentation style. And I think there are conferences where some really good papers are invited to then be also presented in a journal or something like that. Can we maybe do something for presentations? If there are really good presentations, maybe ask the presenters to record it, to then have like a best of presentations after the conference, so something that sticks on. And while I said that I didn't like recording my presentations, the advantage is that, for example, if I have students now that I supervise, they want to work on a thesis topic based on my research, I can send them the presentation, they get some more information, and it's also an example for them when they have to defend their thesis. And so, if we could strengthen something about this, like having recordings, maybe that would be good. Also that we as young researchers can learn what does a good presentation look like. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, come on. I guess we just have 2 more that we can do. Or I guess 3 more. 3 more.
So hello, this is Vaishakhi from Columbia University. So our model, because machine learning conferences are typically way more larger than us, so they have, like in the technical track, there are some papers that are selected for posters, then oral track, and then spotlight. So which is basically what the discussion is going on, where like poster session and then the oral and then the best presentations can be spotlight. So then I was thinking that, and then I was also thinking that my students who mostly publish in machine learning conferences, they are not very well trained for presentation. So the ICSE gives this big forum to educate also students for presentation, which add a huge value. So I just wanted to mention that, like, presentations are important and we should prioritize that too.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Bogdan Vasilescu. I'm at CMU. I guess one thing I wanted to mention, I'm relatively junior, but I have been around long enough to have seen also much longer ICSE presentations. I've also been the PT co-chair for MSR this year, where we tried really, really hard to squeeze 5-minute presentations into the program because we just had so many papers accepted, which is a good thing. The community has grown. But all of these issues we're having now, I think, ignore the fact that back in the day when we started with long presentations at ICSE and other conferences, presentations at conferences were the only way for this work to get out. And since then, we have learned lots of things. We have learned that there's internet, that there's social media, that there's infographics and posters and videos that we have all learned how to do with green screens and whatnot during the pandemic. So I think going forward, my vote would be to focus more on all these other ways of disseminating and advertising our papers that aren't just literally the talks we give at ICSE, and using the time together for more productive, maybe more focused topical discussions. I think ICSE in Pittsburgh last year was a good example of more working conference style a model of being together in person rather than just paper presentations per se. Thanks.
Hello, Lionel Briand. There are certainly many things we can improve, and it's important to keep improving. But I attended my first ICSE in 1993, and I can tell you that we have made a great deal of progress, that the conference is much more diverse in terms of demographics, topics, tracks. It's much more welcoming, much more friendly. And it's just a much more interesting event than it used to be. So it's important to criticize and improve, but it's also important to recognize the amazing progress we have made over the years. So thank you to all of those who contributed to this. Thank you.
Okay. I think we're out of time, but I mean, we are definitely a community that welcomes feedback and suggestions and disruptive models and all kinds of things. And you can hear even among the suggestions, pros and cons of different things, people agreeing and disagreeing with each other in the suggestions. But we all want this to be better and better and better. So we welcome your feedback and your suggestions. And Ari, I know, will handle that as the new steering committee chair.
Thank you for attending.
Yeah. Thank you very much for attending. And where's the reception?